Brompton Road Station is one of the most unusual of London's ghost stations, not because it failed quietly or vanished into ruin, but because it was transformed into a fortress hidden beneath the city. Opened in 1906 on the Piccadilly line between Knightsbridge and South Kensington, it was designed by Leslie Green in his familiar oxblood red tiles, a proud Edwardian face on Brompton Road. Yet almost from the beginning, it struggled to justify itself. The wealthier residents of the area preferred taxis and buses, while its close proximity to Knightsbridge meant few passengers bothered to use it. By 1934, less than 3 decades after opening, the station was closed, its doors locked, its ticket halls sealed, its name removed from the maps. But unlike other disused stations that lingered in silence, Brompton Road found a new life when the Second World War broke out. The Ministry of Defence purchased it in 1938, converting its deep level tunnels and platforms into a secure operations centre. During the Blitz, while bombs fell over London, Brompton Road became the headquarters of the 26th London Anti-Aircraft Brigade, a nerve centre coordinating the city's air defences. Staff worked day and night in its underground rooms, surrounded by maps, telephones, and radios, directing gun batteries that lit the night sky with fire. The tiled corridors and staircases that once carried commuters now carried officers and soldiers, the station's silence replaced by the hum of war. After the war, Brompton Road remained in military hands, used for training and administration long after its underground neighbours returned to civilian service. Above ground, its oxblood facade remained bricked up, unnoticed by the crowds walking past Harrods or Knightsbridge. In 2014, the Ministry of Defence finally sold the site, its hidden chambers still intact, complete with wartime fixtures and fittings. Today, Brompton Road stands as a different kind of ghost, not merely a disused station, but a relic of London at war, a place where transport gave way to defence, and where history lingers in every tiled passageway. Brompton Road Station lies hidden in the shadows of Knightsbridge, a ghost not only of the underground but of war itself. Opened in 1906 with the optimism of the Piccadilly line's expansion, its oxblood red facade was meant to welcome commuters into a new age of travel, yet it never found its footing. Wealthy locals preferred cabs and carriages, and its closeness to Knightsbridge Station left it almost redundant from the start. By 1934, its platforms stood silent, its ticket offices shuttered, its name quietly erased from the maps. But closure was not the end, it was a transformation. In 1938, as war loomed, the Ministry of Defence took possession of the site, stripping out its station fittings and reinforcing its subterranean chambers. When the Blitz rained fire over London, Brompton Road was no longer a place of passengers, but of strategy. Deep beneath the city, officers and soldiers crowded around maps, their fingers tracing enemy flight paths, their voices crackling through telephones and radios as orders were shouted to anti-aircraft batteries across London. The air was filled not with the whoosh of trains, but the urgency of war. In those tunnels, history shifted. Civilian commuters had been replaced by men and women holding the city's fate in their hands. Rumours whispered that Winston Churchill himself visited, descending into the converted station to see the heart of London's air defences. Above ground, the oxblood red facade stood bricked and dark, a secret face on Brompton Road, passed by thousands of shoppers heading to Harrods who never suspected the war room beneath their feet. Even after victory, the ministry kept its grip, using the hidden spaces for training in classified operations, the echoes of war never entirely fading. Today, Brompton Road remains one of the most extraordinary ghost stations not haunted by emptiness, but by memory, by the lingering atmosphere of urgency and fear that once pulsed through its tunnels. To look at it now is to imagine the lights flickering back on, the maps spread out, the phones ringing, and the underground chambers once again alive with the sound of a city fighting for its survival. Brompton Road Station occupies a curious place in London's history, remembered not so much for the passengers it served as for the war it endured. Built in 1906, it was one of Leslie Green's familiar oxblood red creations, part of the Piccadilly line's ambitious expansion through West London. Yet from the very beginning, it was troubled by geography. Located almost midway between Knightsbridge and South Kensington, both larger and better connected, Brompton Road never drew the crowds it needed. For nearly 3 decades, it clung to life, its quiet platforms serving a trickle of passengers, until 1934 brought its official closure. Many stations ended their stories in such silence, fading into the dust of neglect. But Brompton Road's second life was just beginning. In 1938, as tensions in Europe grew, the Ministry of Defence purchased the station, seeing in its deep-level tunnels a ready-made bunker. When the Blitz came, Brompton Road became the command headquarters of London's anti-aircraft defences, a nerve centre where officers directed guns and searchlights against the Luftwaffe. Maps stretched across its walls, telephones rang without pause, and soldiers worked in shifts underground while the city above burned. This transformation marked it not merely as a disused station, but as part of London's wartime machinery. Hidden in plain sight beneath one of the wealthiest districts of the capital. After the war, the station remained in military use, repurposed for training and administration. Its history as a passenger stop faded almost entirely from memory, overshadowed by its role as a war room. When the ministry finally sold it in 2014, the site still contained much of its wartime infrastructure, a frozen relic of mid-20th century defense. Today, Brompton Road stands as one of the most extraordinary examples of London's ghost stations, a place where civilian and military history intersect, where tiled corridors once meant for commuters became arteries of defense in the nation's darkest hour. Unlike South Kentish Town or York Road, which embody the silence of neglect, Brompton Road is haunted by activity, by urgency, by the echoes of men and women who fought to protect the city from underground. It is less a forgotten station than a hidden monument, a reminder that even ordinary spaces can be transformed by the weight of history. Brompton Road Station is not remembered for the trains it carried, but for the secrets it kept. When it opened in 1906, clad in Leslie Green's familiar oxblood red tiles, it looked no different from the other proud new stations of the Piccadilly line. Commuters descended its staircases into tiled corridors, lifts rattled to the platforms, and the sound of trains echoed in its tunnels. Yet from the beginning there was something muted about it, something quieter than its neighbours at Knightsbridge and South Kensington. The wealthy households nearby rarely troubled themselves with underground travel, and Brompton Road's ticket halls were often empty. By 1934, the silence was too deep to ignore, and the station was closed. But silence did not mean death, not here. When war loomed over Europe, the Ministry of Defence bought the site, and the stillness of tiled tunnels was transformed into the hum of war. Beneath the city, maps were unrolled across tables, telephones rang urgently, and officers bent over charts that traced the paths of enemy planes. What had been a passenger station became a fortress, an underground heart of London's anti-aircraft defences. The platforms that once held commuters now echoed with the orders of soldiers, the clatter of typewriters, and the nervous energy of war. Outside, its facade stood bricked and blind, a secret face passed daily by shoppers heading toward Harrods, never suspecting the world below. During the Blitz, when the sky thundered with bombs, Brompton Road was alive with voices, issuing commands that lit the night with flak and search. After the war, it remained in military hands, its second identity never fully erased. Today Brompton Road is called a ghost station, but the word feels too light. It is not simply forgotten, not merely empty. It is haunted by urgency, by the echo of lives spent in its chambers, not for travel, but for survival. Its legacy is written not in tickets or timetables, but in whispers of strategy and in the shadows of war. Brompton Road was a station once, but it became something more, a fortress hidden beneath London, a reminder that even silence can be filled with history.